The big question has finally been answered. Will Sony release PlayStation games day and date release on PC the same as their console counterparts? Well, finally, after all this time, we have an answer. And for the most part, that answer is no. They will not do that. With the exception of PlayStation's live service games. And I have some words to express for that. But before I get into that, I'm going to go through this article right here. So recently, PlayStation CEO Herman Hulst has spoken on video games by Sony being released day and date release on PC, on the PC platform. And here's what he had to say. I think going forward we'll see at least a year between our own platform, PlayStation, and on the PC platform, possibly with the exception of live service games. Live service games are a little different in nature because you want to have a really strong community and really strong engagement right away when you go live. We might, in the case of our live service offerings, go day and date with PC and the PlayStation platform. So clearly that is a business decision. If you have a game that's a single player game like Horizon or Spider-Man, or using another example, Returnal or Ghost of Tsushima, games like that, if you have a single player experience, Sony is not really going to make any more money by releasing that game day and date release with PC. Because they know people are going to buy these exclusives regardless, even if they wait over a year to release some of these games to the PC platform. And of course, the most recent examples would be like Horizon Forbidden West, for example, God of War Ragnarok. Next year we have Spider-Man 2 coming out, and I'm not sure exactly what other PlayStation exclusives are due out for release next year in 2023. But essentially what he's saying is, if it's not a live service game, then minimum it's going to take at least a year before it shows up on PC, be it the Epic Games Store or Steam. So the question within of itself really becomes, how long do you really want to wait to play some of these games? How important are PlayStation exclusives to you as an individual? In my humble opinion, Sony exclusives, some of them, not all of them, but a good number of them, are some of the best video games that you can play. The Spider-Man games alone. Horizon Zero Dawn, not necessarily Forbidden West, but definitely Zero Dawn. The Uncharted games, these are some of the best games that are out there. Do you really want to wait a year or more to play some of these titles? I'd say at this point it really depends on the game itself. Like when Spider-Man 2 comes out next year, I'm not going to wait a year or even longer to play that game. I'd rather just play it when it comes out on PlayStation. And if I like the game enough, when they eventually release it to PC, then I'll rebuy it on PC. And in the past, I have waited for a game to release with all of its content on the disc. This is when I was still buying games physically. And that's actually a funny story. Several years ago, I believe this was back in 2014, when Mortal Kombat X got announced. I had decided that I wasn't going to get this game right away, and I'd rather wait for the complete edition of the game before I invest any time or money into it. So I waited an entire year, over a year, for the inevitable complete edition of Mortal Kombat X, which they titled Mortal Kombat XL, and I bought a physical copy of XL. When I actually got my hands on the game, I essentially lost all interest instantly. I did not give a fuck at that point after waiting such a long period of time. And part of that is because the game had received so many updates that it was basically impossible for me to actually get into the game, like get into the online and what have you. Is because I didn't know what was patched and what wasn't. So basically, by the time that I actually played this game, the only thing that I did was play through the story mode, and then after that, I didn't touch this game at all. In fact, I remember uninstalling the game, putting the disc back in its case, putting the case back on my bookshelf, and basically it just collected dust. And I still have it. I still have Mortal Kombat XL. It's sitting on my shelf somewhere. The reason I bring up that story is because that essentially is what would happen for a lot of players who choose to actually wait over a year to play some of these games. By the time that these games actually come out on PC, some of these PlayStation exclusives, are you really going to care at that point if you've never played the game before? I mean, it's a really good question. Now, I know Mortal Kombat X is different because that's a fighting game, and a lot of these games are just, single player experiences where multiplayer is not a component whatsoever. And I understand that, but at the same time, the same argument applies. And just judging through the myriad of comments here, it seems that commenters on IGN are very split on this issue. One thing that I can say for certain is that PC has become basically the dominant gaming platform, and its audience continues to grow by the day, thanks to more accessibility options with PC, and new devices, new hardware such as the Steam Deck, for example. More casual gamers are getting into the PC scene, and consoles are slowly becoming obsolete. I don't think this is going to be an indefinite decision by Sony. I think eventually, regardless of whether these games are live service or not, eventually they're going to get to a point where they're going to release all of their exclusives day and date release on PC the same as their console counterparts. And that's just my guess. Obviously, I have no proof of this, but that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. And personally, again, I'm not going to wait a year or longer to play certain games. Again, I'm not going to wait over a year to play Spider-Man 2. I'll just play it when the PS5 version comes out. And I'm certain I'll like the game enough, and when it comes out on PC, after it's had its temporary exclusivity on PlayStation, then I'll buy the game again on the dominant platform. Same thing for Horizon Forbidden West. I played the game earlier this year when it came out on PlayStation. When it eventually comes to PC, which is inevitable at this point, then I'll rebuy the game again. But for those who don't place an emphasis on Sony exclusives, maybe it'll be easier for other people to wait. Maybe it'll be easier for others to do that. For me, it doesn't make any sense to experience entertainment over a year after something has initially come out. That doesn't really make any sense to me. Regardless, opinions will be split on this issue. Not everyone's going to like this decision from Sony, but it is what it is. We already have people on the internet saying, yeah, I'm going to sell my PS5. This is the confirmation I need. It's really up to the individual at that point. But I think it can be said without a doubt that console gaming is really going out the door. There's not much point in owning a console in this day and age.